Okay, this is weird. This would be the review for macroeconomics at Viterbo, chapters 29 through 32. I will, I think, make a video for each chapter and post those to Moodle. So we'll try chapter 29 as a test here and see how it works. Going off the review guide that was given to you, the first bullet point is the function of money. Of course, we know the function of money has a number of different functions, which would be the medium of exchange, unit of account, store of value, and liquidity. You would need to know all four of those and, of course, what they mean. In essence, of course, the function of money, though, is to promote commerce and to ensure that we have a currency that is valued and trusted amongst, in at least our case, our economy. Next bullet would be the Federal Reserve System. The Federal Reserve System was created out of the Great Depression by Congress. The Federal Reserve System is run by the Federal Reserve by a chairman, and then there are also board members in various districts around the United States. We know two are very close to us, Chicago and Minneapolis, and then the third not too far away, St. Louis. The Federal Reserve is a quasi-governmental entity in that it is not part of one of the three branches of government. It acts independently. However, the Federal Reserve Chairman is appointed by the President and confirmed by the Congress, so it can be a bit political. The Federal Reserve does many things in terms of its function. One of them, one of the many tools it has would be its main purpose is to control the money supply and to act as the nation's bank. So banks need to borrow from other banks, and the Federal Reserve helps in that capacity, and also it serves in controlling the money supply in our nation. It does that mostly through three main tools. The first tool would be the FOMC, or the Federal Open Market Committee, which meets regularly throughout the year to determine what it will do with its bond buying program. When the Federal Reserve buys bonds, it's giving money to the bondholders, which therefore is increasing the money supply. That's referred to as loose policy. And when the Federal Reserve sells bonds, people would give their money to the government, and that would be referred to as tight money. Of course, they can do this through controlling the interest rates to make the bonds more attractive to either buy or to purchase. Over the last several years, the Federal Reserve has done something through the Federal Open Market Committee called quantitative easing, and that quantitative easing is loose policy where they've been buying billions of dollars worth of bonds from bondholders to fund our government activities and to promote our economy. At least that's their rationale. Another thing the Federal Reserve can do to control the money supply is to set the fractional reserve rate, and that's under fractional reserve banking. Fractional reserve banking is when by statute, the Federal Reserve requires all banks to have a certain amount of their deposits in cash on hand in the bank. In other words, they can't loan it out because that's how banks make money, of course. And by setting a higher fractional reserve rate, in other words, they have to keep more money on hand, that would be tight policy. And then, of course, if they had a lower fractional reserve rate, that would be loose monetary policy because they would have more money to borrow and to lend out to individuals because they wouldn't have to keep as much on hand. That also goes with the third tool that the Federal Reserve has to control the money supply, which would be the federal funds rate. That's the rate that they set for banks to borrow to banks under this discount window. In essence, that rate has been close to zero over the last several years. And of course, if the rate is higher, that's tight policy. And if the rate's lower, that's loose monetary policy. So the Fed, again, has three tools to control the money supply. Whether it's tight or loose, it is the fractional reserve banking, the Federal Open Market Committee, and the federal funds rate. In addition, under Chapter 29, some bullets is the money multiplier. The money multiplier is simply a theory and in practice a rule where money is created by lending money. So if I put my deposit in the Bank of Trumpelow, and the Bank of Trumpelow then takes my money and takes some of my money and uses it to loan to one of my neighbors to build a hunting cabin, that my loan in essence multiplied the money supply by the bank borrowing some of my money to someone else and charging an interest rate to repay them. So it's a way to increase the money supply by borrowing. And of course, if the interest rates are higher, the money supply would be lower because less people would be borrowing money, which again is tight policy, and vice versa. The last bullet up there would be related to the theory of leverage. And the theory of leverage is when an institution is using borrowed money to lend it out at a rate higher than they're paying. So in other words, if they pay someone 3% interest on money in a bank deposit and then lend it out at 5%, the bank is in essence earning 2% on that money. That is the fundamental theory of leverage, financial leverage. And then the last point that I see I haven't covered under Chapter 29 is the financial crisis of 2008 and 9. Out of the financial crisis where the economy was in recession, there was high unemployment, and there were many banks failing. The federal government and the Federal Reserve decided through monetary policy, remembering that monetary policy is what the Federal Reserve does, fiscal policy is what the Congress does through taxing and spending. They decided to start this quantitative easing program to pump money into the economy, to stimulate it in hope of businesses becoming busier and therefore needing to hire more employees. And that has not happened as much as they wanted it to in the last 5 years since the financial crisis started. But nonetheless, the Federal Reserve and the government did bail out many banks that were close to going under or being insolvent, and they also started their quantitative easing program. I'm now going to stop this and try to post it to YouTube and put a link onto Moodle. So we will see if this works. Bye.